I am an African.
So South Africa heads to the polls on the 29th of May, 2024. This will be your seventh election, seventh general election. You are on the fourth president, if we exclude the interim Kgalema Motlanthe. You might elect your fifth president, maybe not. There's rumors about a failure for ANC to get over 50%. There's the rise of the EFF. There's other exciting parties like Rise and Mzansi, Action SA. There's just so many moving pieces in this election. And of course, we're joined by Keanen Isaacs, who has been with us throughout this series of South Africa. He is a researcher at South African History Online and a master's student at the University of Witwatersrand in Gauteng.
I am an African.
So if you can just tell us, what are the key features, and I understand the electoral system has also changed, what are the key features of this electoral system, and who are the main frontrunners? Who do we have to know for us to get a grasp of this election?
Thank you. So according to the South African Constitution, South Africa is a constitutional democracy with proportional representation in the National Assembly, which basically means that the amount of votes a party gets is proportional to the number of seats that party is allocated in the National Assembly. So also there are, there are three levels of government, being the executive, the legislative, and then the judicial. The major front runners in this election are obviously the three biggest parties in South Africa at the moment, which is the African National Congress, the Democratic Alliance, and the Economic Freedom Fighters.
Where on the political angle do these three parties sit?
So basically, the ANC is as the oldest liberation organization on the continent, has been ruling since 1994, and then we have the Democratic Alliance and the EFF are falling into the opposition.
Okay. The ANC is perhaps centrist. Are they big on spending?
Center left.
Center left. Okay. And the EFF?
Yes, center left. The EFF is considered far left. Some even ultra left.
Okay.
Whereas the DA is more of a centrist right, center right.
Yeah.
Political party.
And
so many analysts have predicted a slight step towards the right in this following the May 29 elections.
So, who are because you're voting for parliamentary seats, not the president directly, who
Yes.
are the leaders of these political parties? And what are sort of their, I don't know, what are their hallmarks? How can we sort of understand them, and what are they promising? Because politicians are known for promising a lot of things. What is the DA saying? What is the ANC saying? And what is the EFF saying? You know, we also got another fun question actually on Julius Malema. Is Julius Malema a racist? And, you know, what type of South Africa would it be if Julius Malema is president? And then someone was asking, what would the effect of ANC losing their majority be? Yeah.
So basically, the ANC as the ruling party is led by President Cyril Ramaphosa. The party itself, you know, has a proven track record as the only party that has governed South Africa post 1994. So it's, although South Africa is considered a multi-party democracy, many have said that it is more of a one-party dominant system, as the ANC has dominated the national election since 1994, securing the two-thirds majority, which means that the ANC plays a key role in formulating national policy. And then we have the Democratic Alliance, which is considered the official opposition, which is led by John Steenhuisen.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, the party advocates for private property rights, government policies to increase business and having a largely pro capitalist economic outlook. And then we have the economic freedom fighters, obviously led by Julius Malema, and one of the key advocating points is redistributing the land to Black South Africans.
Mm. And that's also another contentious issue, the redistribution of land, the whole land reform debate. But that could be a whole topic
Yes.
in and of itself. But is it featuring in this election?
To be honest, I haven't heard much about land reform during this election cycle,
Mm.
but it's also indicated that no one issue has dominated
Mm.
the election debate in during the cycle. So, but at the top of South Africans concerns is the ongoing energy crisis and as well as the increasing unemployment.
So back on the sort of coalition one, if ANC needs to form a coalition, will the ANC, the DA, I heard that the DA has this narrative of the ANC having an EFF alliance. Could that happen? Could the ANC have a coalition with the EFF after this election if they don't get the votes that they need? Or could the ANC have a coalition with the DA itself? And would that how would South Africa change in that aspect? Would it just start shifting to, will the coalition become will sort of the EFF and the DA become a kingmaker in that coalition, or will they sort of be shelved out over time?
So many analysts predict that after the May 2029 elections that there will be a possible national coalition government. There has already been a pre-election agreement signed between the Democratic Alliance, the Inkatha Freedom Party, the Freedom Front Plus, Action SA, and the African Christian Democratic Party, and a number of smaller parties to present a united front in the 2024 elections to challenge the three-decade rule of the ANC. This was formerly known as the Moonshot Pact Parties, now called the Multi-Party Charter.
Okay.
So, should the ANC fail to secure the two-thirds majority, there is a possible counter national coalition between the ANC, the EFF, the Patriotic Alliance, and one of the newcomers, the Mkhonto weSizwe party led by former President Jacob Zuma.
Which itself is in problems, the MK party.
Yes. So recently, the Electoral Court ruled that President Zuma is not eligible to contest in the 2024 elections due to his arrest and his brief jail time in 2021, as you mentioned.
So in this so there is a potential that, let's say, if ANC doesn't make enough, either the DA and its affiliates, like Action SA,
yes,
will supplant the ANC and there'll be a new leader, or because they're not looking at having a coalition with the ANC themselves, the DA and the ANC, in the event that the ANC fails.
Yeah. I think under the administration of Ramaphosa, ANC DA coalition doesn't seem, too far off. But I think ANC EFF MK coalition would be
More
disastrous for the country.
Yeah. And so would an ANC EFF coalition be more likely then?
Yeah, it's more likely because although they have issues of their own, there's probably one thing they could coalesce around, which is the one to loot state resources.
Yeah, no, I mean the issue of EFF corruption is also something interesting that we'll see with age. But so look at sort of the smaller parties that are coming up. There's sort of like when you just watch news, there is sort of disaffection by voters. You mentioned Action SA. I think the leader is Herman Mashaba.
Yes.
Yeah, so can you just like what is Action SA's brand? There was a fan question that was interested in Action SA specifically. Who are they and what's their thing? And Rise Mzansi seems very appealing these days, at least from the way
Yes.
the coverage they're getting. I don't know about the Build One South Africa by the former DA leader Musi Maimane, but if you can just
Yes.
expand sort of on Action SA and Rise Mzansi and this sort of notion of small parties might newcomers to the parliament.
So Action SA is led by, as you mentioned, Urban Mashaba, who is the former mayor of the city of Johannesburg.
Okay.
But before he started Action SA, he was a member of, he basically governed the city of Joburg as a DA elected mayor.
Sorry, he was with the DA.
Yes, he was with the DA first, yes.
Okay.
So, but following the ostracization of black leaders in the party at the time, there was a exodus of black leaders from the Democratic Alliance. Musi Maimane, most notably, and then Herman Mashaba and others followed suit as well. So basically, Action SA has Herman Mashaba himself being a pro-business, has a also center-right political outlook.
Okay.
It's the structure of the party itself is very Western influence. So the party's highest decision-making body is called the Senate.
Wow.
As a nod to the Roman, the Roman Senate, and then obviously the United States also adopting this Senate model. So that's what I can say about Action SA, and their political ideology aligns with the DA. So a coalition between these two parties is almost a formality.
Okay. So he left the DA, but his ideologies aren't that different.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. And Rise Mzansi, are they what's so sexy about that team? Why are they so
So Rise Mzansi hasn't been on the block for too long. I think at least a year it's been, on but it's led by former I think he was in media before Songezo Zibi.
Okay.
I've been following some of the party's movements since late last year. However, I don't see it bringing any unique ideas on how we can better the lives of all South Africans. Or the mostly what I've heard is that we need new leaders. However, we need new leaders, but what are these new leaders bringing to the table that is new and innovative, and that can give us solutions to the many issues we face in the country.
Yeah. Before I go into sort of
one thing I can say about some of the representatives that they've deployed in the field to contest these elections, the majority of them are quite young.
So there is a young sort of movement around it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And although this will be their first election in which they will contest, polls have them polling at 3%, which is a major debut.
Yeah, it's quite good for a party no one knew 1 year ago.
Yes, and then we have obviously what could possibly be a thorn in the ANC side, Mkonta Wesizwe.
And they are, just to be sure, they are actually going to field candidates. It's not just like
Yes, it is a registered political party. However, the party leader will not be able to contest the elections.
Okay.
Polls have them currently at 8%.
Wow. That's
they're chowing into the ANC's electoral base now.
Yeah, that's huge. If they can maintain that steam, that's quite huge. So I'm just looking at the polls right now. Before I go into the polls, there was a last fan question. Someone was asking, is the DA a white party? And I think you addressed that when you're talking about the exodus of black leaders, maybe. I don't know if there's anything else to expand there.
Yes. There is this perception that the DA is a white-led party or a party, advocating only for white people, and then this is somewhat evident if you look at the top leadership structure of the DA,
Hmm.
which is majority white. Many of the DA's officials that are currently governing cities.
Yeah.
So the mayor of Cape Town is white. The premier is white.
Yeah.
The DA's mayor in the Mbeki municipality in KwaZulu-Natal, Chris Papas,
Yeah.
although he speaks Zulu, also white.
Yeah.
So there is this perception that blacks and coloureds and people of color in general in the DA are put one side and ostracized. But the current DA chief whip is black.
Mm. But and that's
But I
yeah.
think why many black South Africans will advocate and vote for the DA is because I mean the ANC hasn't done much for black people.
Mm.
Although education levels and many other things have improved, access to housing, access to water, access to electricity, the
Mm.
majority of black South Africans still live in poverty.
Mm. Mm.
And this is something that needs to be addressed. So the DA has never governed South Africa on a national scale, but since it's governed the Western Cape for at least 15 years,
Wow.
and the Western Cape is considered one of the best run provinces in the country,
Mm.
in terms of service delivery. And basically the unemployment in the Western Cape is far lower than the national unemployment rate.
So we have sort of talked about the black-white vote, but what about sort of the other demographics in South Africa? Who are sort of South African Indians voting for? Who are South African coloureds voting for? For those listening to us who aren't familiar with the term, I am not using a derogatory term. Coloured is the reference to a mixture of races in Southern Africa.
Yes.
So yes, who are these demographics who are sort of often overlooked looking to vote for?
So one of the demographics is as you mentioned, the colored population.
Mhm.
And their vote has largely been seen also as as kingmakers. So should coalitions emerge, parties like the Patriotic Alliance, which is led by Keaten, who is a colored, who has explicitly advocated for more colored participation in the democratic and electoral processes of the country. And basically, what he's been saying is that white people have ruled South Africa. We've given black people a chance.
Mhm.
So now it's colored people's time.
Okay.
And this I think it's part of a larger populist rhetoric. So we also have the Freedom Front Plus, which is largely seen as a representative of Afrikaner, white Afrikaners, and the farming community. Reality of
Yeah.
South African politics, even 30 years into democracy, is that many South Africans still vote along racial lines.
Mhm.
You
Yeah,
know,
which is
I think every as a black person you would want to see a black president, and
right.
as a white person you'd want to see white president. And even as a colored person, you'd want to see a colored president. But I think it's when we move beyond those racial lines in politics, and then I think that is when South Africa will become, a truly non-racist society.
Yeah.
But even though we is the challenge of creating this equitable non-racist society, due to South Africa's history, it still remains a highly racialized society. So any
Yeah.
official document that you need to sign or you're applying anyway, it asks for your race. But obviously, these are also used for demographic purposes.
Right. Yeah.
So for stats and etc. for the allocation of
True.
resources.
Yeah. So
But
anything
also,
on.
I'd like to mention one another thing about democracy and elections is the phenomena of youth, which is that the majority of eligible South African youth are not voting. And this is obviously a problem for a young democracy like South Africa's. I don't think many South African youth, fully appreciate the sacrifices and that our forebears have made, in the struggle for liberation and for this democracy which we take for granted.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, as you mentioned earlier as well, the issues in sort of jobs, poverty, inequality. I guess maybe there's
Yes,
just a sense of disenchantment.
yes,
There's
it's a
this realization that you.
disenchantment. Yes.
But, yeah. Hello? Can you?
Yes, I'm still, yeah.
Yeah.
Are
Sorry.
there any other questions?
No, no, no. The last thing I wanted to do was just look at the current pollings. The pollings from the Economist magazine. The pollings apparently have it at Ramaphosa ANC at 43 with a 41 to 45 margin. Democratic Alliance John Steenhuisen 20 to 25, but the midpoint is 22. Mkonte Wesizwe, MK, wow, this is quite a lot. Jacob Zuma is 10 to 14, 12%, 12% in the middle. And then Economic Freedom Fighters, the MK is actually leading in front of the EFF. That's quite a hammer on Malema's enthusiasm. 9 to 14%, with the middle being 12.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think there's what the polling suggests is that among the three major political parties, both the ANC and the DA will experience a decline in their share of the vote, whereas the EFF is the only one of the three major parties to expect to increase its share of the vote.
Yeah, I mean, it's expecting to increase the share of the vote, but the other like polls here, Social Research Foundation, 6th of May, 13th of May, 23rd of May, in the latest polling on 23rd of May, the EFF is at 9.3%, MK is at 13. On the 13th, on the 23rd of May, the EFF was at 9.3%, MK at 13. On the 13th of May, EFF was at 9.4, MK at 7. So they kind of the MK is leading in the latest poll on the 23rd of
Yeah,
May poll.
yeah, the polls are fluctuating.
Yeah,
But
the fluctuation.
I think on the poll suggests one thing, but the actual election results are something completely different.
Yeah. I mean, it's very interesting to watch these polls. And the ANCs look so confident these days. I saw the last rally and they looked very confident, and somehow something says that the ANC is not going anywhere.
Yeah,
And then
it's
because people are
whenever
writing off the ANC.
whenever the ANC says something today, you should take it as the ravings of a dying horse.
Yeah. I mean, we'll see. We'll see. Otherwise, it's
Yeah.
I don't know if you have any other point to bring up, or if you wish that we asked you a particular question, you can answer it right now. I am done with my questions.
Yes, I just wanted to say thank you for the opportunity, and it was a great discussion.
Sure, yeah, no, it's been a very, very comprehensive discussion. This is probably the most consequential election in Africa this year, and among the most in the world. It's a big election year for the world and for Africa.
Yes.
So yeah, we'll be watching closely. Just on a more casual note, I've noticed the dance challenge. There's an ANC dance challenge. What's it called? Kamduze, which for some reason I've been playing quite a lot. I'm not partisan in any way, but it's a good vibe. It's a good vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
no, I mean, yeah.
there's a history of dance moves of South African presidents. Mandela had this move.
Which was resuscitated
Zuma.
with the Swalabang.
Yeah, and then Zuma had this, his move, and
Yeah.
I see Ramaphosa has found his move as well.
Yeah. So we'll see if these dance moves can secure the ANC's time in office for more than 30 years.
Yeah, I doubt it.
Yeah, we'll see. We shall see. Anyways, for those who are voting in South Africa, we wish you the best. Hopefully you vote safely, and you hopefully get the results that you wanted. If you don't, then maybe work with the system and improve your surroundings where you can. Anyways, thank you for coming on our podcast, Keanen Isaacs, who is a researcher at the South Africa History Online and a master's student at Witwatersrand University in Gauteng.
Thank you for having me.
This is the third and last episode of our special series in South Africa. First one being the one on presidents, second one being on foreign policy, and the third one being the election. For more on South Africa, check out our documentary on South African politics since 1994 to 2024, discussing each and every president's successes and challenges. Thank you for watching. Be sure to leave a 5-star rating, a like, follow, and share.
When I say I am an African.